Okay, so the rose gold sparkles was a fantastic idea. This is the Raven that I'm going to show you how I painted. And this is the photo that I took that inspired the painting. I took this photo a couple years ago. It was a very stormy day, and I tried to capture that. So I always recommend putting a piece of paper next to your painting. That way you can always test colors. So this color here that I'm using is M-Gram Neutral Tint. It's a moody purple, and it actually inspired kind of a current series that I'm doing that is kind of neutral tone bird paintings. We'll see where all that goes. Here I'm leaving some of the white of the branch, just because I want to try to preserve some of those highlights. Now, I'm quite a messy painter. Not everybody paints like me. You paint like you. And here I am doing a kind of wash, but I'm not wanting it to be uniform because it was a rainy day. Trying to get kind of a variation and some textures in that background. So don't be afraid to, let the paint kind of drip all over your painting. You actually do get some beautiful little accidents when that happens. I'm using a deeper concentration of that color to kind of just flesh out where the tree is going to be and some branches, and you can kind of see more of that purple color now that I'm using it darker. And I'm just using a little bit of brown here, and I think that was just a brown that I had already mixed upon my palette. It's not a color. And I got some drips, and this is called wet and wet technique. There I tried to so I'm holding the phone while I'm recording and I'm painting, and then I tried to get a paper towel, so I used my mouth and I got just a tiny little piece. So that's what that was all about. And then here I am just kind of smoothing out that background, kind of cleaning up where some of those drips were. And I'm reserving the Raven. I didn't have to do that because the Raven was going to be black, but there are parts where I have those bright white highlights that I wanted to keep. So again, always keep a paper towel by you, because that way you can dry off your brush if you need to. And there is me just looking at my reference photo. See, I've kind of got some soft edges in that tree. And here I am doing some branches, and then I was like, oh wait, I gotta paint that mountain. I remember thinking that. And so I was like, we'll come back and paint those later. There are no mistakes when you're painting. Everything is absolutely fixable. Just kind of got to go with the flow. And that's one thing I really like about watercolor, is there is an unpredictable nature to it. So you kind of have to just surrender. So here I'm using a blue color. And my thought for that was that, I think it's Prussian blue, was that things in the background are a cooler tone than things in the foreground. So that tree was in the foreground, so that's why it has the browns in it. However, I didn't like it. So what I then did was went over it I'm just trying to put some textures in. But what I did was I went over it with the purple, because to me it was the blue color was just standing out way too much. And I wanted it to kind of just melt into the background against that sky. It was a very overcast, cloudy, rainy day when I took that picture. And so I do end up, I don't know when exactly I do it, but I do end up taking that purple color and doing some glazes over that mountain area to change the tone to match more of that neutral tint purpley color. So here it looks like I'm just painting some of those branches. I think it's kind of about here where I'm like, that branch is really straight. So I went in and I just kind of put some curves to it. It was straight in the photo, but I wanted it to be more interesting. And sorry that it is off focus. Again, I was holding the phone while I was trying to record. And when I started doing this, I didn't mean to record the whole thing. I meant for it to be just a quick little TikTok thing, but I ended up doing the whole thing. And so now I have switched over to painting the Raven, and I have set up filming on my GoPro. Now I did paint this in several sessions. My hands don't really hold up for very long. I have bilateral carpal tunnel and such. But I do have a revelite easel light that I paint with, and so it keeps the light consistent. I'm just putting in some shadows under that branch. But so because I have consistent lighting, it doesn't matter if I'm painting morning, evening, day. My colors always look the same, and I can just pick up where I left off. And here I'm just kind of putting down some of those feather tones. Now, before you saw there was a sketch. Well, what I was using was, see, what is it? It was a water soluble. It was a 2B Faber-Castell pencil. You're not going to see it under those dark colors of the Raven, but it is something that does it kind of acts like watercolor, dissolves-ish in water. And I like to use those when I'm painting. But so I put the darks in for the Raven, and you want to reserve some of those darks as well. Now you always want to mix up your own darks, and I do have a little video where I show how to mix up grays and darks. Here I'm putting in those branches using a rigger brush, and really the brush is doing all the work. When you use a rigger or a striper, whatever you want to call it, to paint branches, it was life-changing. So you should get yourself one and do that. Now here I'm putting in the little eye. I think the eye was kind of the most important part. Wherever you put the most detail is where your focus is going to be in any painting. And for here, the most detail is in the face and the beak of the bird. Now where I reserved some of those lighter gray, which ended up being highlights for the Raven, I did go back and draw some little feathers, just kind of impressions of feathers. Here I'm drawing the tail feathers, and so back to where I did my initial sketch, I drew a lot of lines just to tell myself which way I wanted those brush strokes to be. So because I painted because I used brush strokes going horizontally for the head and vertical for the body, it kind of gives a flow to the form of the bird without me necessarily painting all individual feathers. you're really just wanting to do an impression of what you're seeing. If in my opinion, if people wanted or expected something realistic, they would just go for the photograph to begin with. Now, luckily, the paint that I'm using, it's something that lifts very easily. So there you saw me taking out and defining some highlight areas. I then go back and adjust the areas where I'd previously lifted to kind of refine the highlights that were in that area. Now the Raven color, I was using a mix of turquoise and maroon, perylene. I can't remember exactly how you pronounce it now, but it's my favorite one for making a dark black-ish color. Now here I was noticing that my bird seemed a little bit lopsided, so and that wing was poofed out a little bit too much, so I was just fixing the silhouette. There I am painting some feather textures into that gray area, the highlight area. And then here I'm doing some of that lifting technique, but I'm doing it on the tree trunk. And so what it did was, so by just using a wet brush, kind of going in a circle motion, I was able to lift out paint where it looked like there were little like knobs and bumps on the tree itself. Did the same thing for the branches to try to give them some definition, or make them look 3D, you could say. Thus, I'm doing it on the top of that branch, just kind of pulling out the shapes and the forms. I guess shape and form, shape, color, shape. Let's see, text. I can't remember all the. Shape and form are different, but I can't remember right now. And so here I am just kind of adjusting how I had the painting so that that bottom was uncovered, so that I could get those details. Whenever you have a painting in an easel, especially watercolor, make sure that your top and your bottom, that you're painting that and it's not getting forgotten. Now I went in and I put where I lifted the colors previously, I went back in with a quinacridone rust, I think that was the color I used, to kind of put a brown tint into those branches, and that's what I'm doing there with the bottom branch. Just kind of warm up those areas. So really, other than when I used a little bit of that blue color for the mountains, which now you can see blends a lot better now that it has that purple tone to it, I really only used the neutral tint purple color, the brown, quin rust, and then my black mixture. So I really only used those three colors heavily in this painting. When you have a limited palette, I think that it does help with your, not necessarily your composition, but if you try to put too many colors into a painting, it can get muddy, and sometimes it doesn't look too good. But with a limited palette, it's just a little bit more sophisticated, I think. And then here I am, I was happy with the painting, and so I signed it. Now, I always was taught to sign in the same medium that you painted with, so I always try to use the same color that I've painted with. So thank you everybody for watching. I did end up putting a rose gold metallic watercolor on top of the tree. I think it kind of looks like sunshine hitting the branches. It's very subtle. So thank you for watching. Glad that I could show you this part of my process, and I do plan to continue recording in the future. Okay, well, till next time.